The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of KSMQ Public Service Media Incorporated or its assigns.
Welcome to Farm Connections. On today's episode, we travel to John Zimmerman's farm near Northfield, Minnesota, where John shows us how he raises turkeys in a sustainable and energy-efficient manner. He also introduces us to team members who helped him make the farm more energy efficient. It's all coming up right now on Farm Connections.
Welcome to Farm Connections with your host, Dan Hoffman.
Farm Connections on KSMQ, sponsored in part by the Cedars of Austin, a senior living community. We even have a retired farmers club. Independent, assisted, and memory care apartments. Learn more at cedarsofaustin.com. Will Mahler, the ag attorney, has been representing dairy farms in Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin for 37 years. Will Mahler, the ag attorney's office is in Rochester, and Will is a proud partner of Farm Connections. Thanks, Will Mahler.
The cost of energy contributes to the cost of food, and the cost of energy also contributes to the bottom line of farmers. Farmers like John Zimmerman of Northfield, Minnesota. John is going to take us to his farm and show us how he's using energy efficiency practices to bring the cost of food down and make his farm more profitable. In that process, he brought in team members to evaluate the farm, do an energy audit, and give recommendations to John on how to make his farm more efficient and bring energy costs down. Let's listen in. John, thanks so much for having us.
Thanks for coming.
And what a nice farm. Tell us about it.
Thank you. The Zimmerman family's been here since about 1870. My dad started raising turkeys about 1955 after he got out of the Navy. We're a mixed operation, both crops and turkeys.
How many acres?
We farm roughly 500 to 600 acres.
And turkeys are a large part of your operation?
Turkeys are the majority of our operation. We raise primarily females, hens, and we roughly raise between 3 and 4 million pounds a year.
That's a lot, John, and I love turkey.
Well, that's good. You need to eat a little more.
You're also president of the Minnesota Turkey Growers Association. Tell us about that role.
That's correct. Minnesota Turkey Growers Association is the state checkoff organization, and been on the board for about 6 years, and we rotate through the executive committee, and this year I happen to be president.
You spoke about the bottom line and making profitability, and that's part of the mission of the Minnesota Turkey Growers Association, but certainly as a farmer, you look at that every year, don't you?
Oh, of course. You know, we're price takers. We take whatever price the market gives us, so we always have to be watching our bottom line, and anything we can do to increase our efficiency is obviously welcome. So when a product comes along that says that we can do the same or better job for less money, we obviously take a good look at that.
Well, John, I know you well enough to know that you're a very organized man, and you also are very community-oriented and team-oriented. You've brought a team onto the farm to help make the farm work better. Tell us about that.
Well, with the LED light project, obviously, it's a new technology, so to be an early adopter is scary in a lot of ways because we don't necessarily know if it's going to work. So luckily, there's partners out there with Great River Energy, Minnesota Project, and others that would team with us so we could install some of these new types of fixtures and monitor to see, what sort of efficiencies we can gain, and also from a performance standpoint, if there's any performance benefits by using the new technologies.
Well, we're going to meet some of those team members today, and we're going to talk a lot about what specifically they bring to your operation. So let's have Joel join us if we can.
Hey, Joel.
Hi, John.
Hi, Joel.
Hi, Dan.
Welcome.
How are you?
Good. What are you doing? Where do you work?
Good question, Dan. My name is Joel Haskard. I'm the co-director of the Clean Energy Resource Teams, or CERTS program. A lot of people think that's the breath mint, but it's also us. And we are a partnership of 5 organizations. So I'm on the University of Minnesota St. Paul campus as part of Extension and the Regional Sustainable Development Partnerships. We also work with the Department of Commerce and the Division of Energy Resources there. The Southwest Regional Development Commission is also a partner, and a couple of nonprofits, including Minnesota Project.
Can you tell us about a tour or project in addition to John Zimmerman's project?
Sure. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about why we do what we do, and then I'll tell you a little bit about how we do it, if that's okay.
Please.
You know, folks will tell you the statistics that over $15 billion, and that's billion with a B, of money leaves Minnesota every year on coal we don't have, natural gas we don't have, and petroleum we don't have. So we're really trying to figure out how we can keep those resources, keep that money circulating in our community, on our farms, in our schools, in our towns. And so we work with communities around the state who are interested in identifying and implementing energy efficiency and renewable energy projects, like the innovative energy efficiency project we're going to see here today. So we also do tours around the state. So we'd suggest if people are interested in energy efficiency or renewable energy, sometimes they want to kick the tires first. They want to look or see who's doing what. Well, we'll tour a manufacturing plant that's manufacturing biomass boilers up in northwest Minnesota, or maybe solar thermal hot water systems in central Minnesota, or solar photovoltaics in the metro, or up in the Iron Range. These are all manufacturing plants creating good jobs. We'll tour those manufacturing plants and see how those systems work. We'll also go out onto farms or into schools, and we'll check out those projects as well. These are free tours. We hope people come and join us.
When you mention $15 billion, you mean we're importing energy and exporting up to 15 billion or more?
That's right. That's right. So, you know, biofuels, we've seen that industry really take off in this state. And wind, we've seen that industry really take off in those states. This state is a real leader in those areas. Energy efficiency, we're in the top 10 in the nation, believe it or not. But, you know, people need help connecting and learning more. You know, there's over 180 electric utilities in Minnesota. Can you believe it? So those are investor-owned utilities, cooperatives, municipal utilities. So we try to be a conduit for folks to learn more about the rebates and incentives that those utilities have. And we do that by having citizen-led steering committees. And that's a utility representative, that's a school superintendent, that's a farmer, that's an environmental advocate, and they're all in the same room together. They're all talking together about what can we do to grow our local economy, to keep our towns resilient, and to improve our energy efficiency and get more renewable energy on the grid.
Fantastic. And John, how did you interface with CERTS, and what did you get out of that experience?
Well, originally the project came through the MTGA looking for people who would be interested in installing LED lights, and so through them and Minnesota Project and our local electric co-op, we came to an agreement. They did some cost sharing, cost matching, and allowed us to install lights at a reduced price.
And I just add to that, you know, every 2 years we do a statewide conference, and we had about 500 people just recently in St. Cloud, and John was one of the presenters there. This is such an interesting project. We wanted to make sure that other folks could come and learn from his experiences, what works, what doesn't work, you know, were your expectations met. So that's a great way to network with folks like John.
Now let's meet other team members who've worked with John to make the farm more energy efficient. Fritz, tell us a little bit about the work you do and the company you work for.
Certainly. I work for the Minnesota Project. I'm the Clean Energy Program Manager there. And the Minnesota Project has been around for nearly 35 years. And we work on farm energy efficiency matters. In this case, we've been working with John Zimmerman on his poultry barn for LED lights. We also have a training program of which Shannon participated specific to farm energy auditing. So,
Shannon, Fritz mentioned an energy audit and working with you in a training program. Tell us about that.
Well, I basically work at a local cooperative that is in association with Great River Energy. At that point in time, I received an email speaking about an auditing class that the Minnesota Project was putting on for commercial auditing of agricultural different events that kind of interested me. So I kind of got a hold of the Minnesota Project, got involved with it a little bit, enrolled in the program, and we went around to several different farm sites. We did different classes online, and it really opened up some eyes in some areas as to energy conservation that I never looked at, even when people ask me every day, you know, where can I save energy on the farm? Because essentially your electric utility is a good place to start when asking those questions. So we get asked that quite often. Not knowing that there were several different types of compressors for dairy setups, and not knowing different events that took place on different farms, really didn't have those answers so clear. It was clear as mud, so to speak. But doing this audit program really opened up some horizons there and allowed us to kind of figure out or fine-tune a little bit more for each individual type of farm.
Fritz, why would a local cooperative electric association or a company like GRE want to have an energy audit? Why do they support what the Minnesota project does?
Well, I think at the local level, it really comes down to reducing production costs for the farmer and maintaining a strong rural vital economy. At the higher level, at the policy level, utility companies are under state law are required to conserve 1.5% energy savings over a triennium. And in some areas of the state, that's been more difficult to capture. In others, it's been much easier. In the rural economies, because they aren't able to capture the same economies of scale as they are in, say, the metro area, it's a little bit more of a challenge. And so ferreting out where we can make those energy savings is a little bit more difficult. So.
Sounds like a wonderful program, and we all benefit.
Correct.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You might be asking, why does the electrical company encourage John and other farmers like John to conserve electricity and therefore impact sales in a negative way? The answers are coming up with our next two guests. Shannon just spoke about GRE and some of the things that you do to help make farmers more efficient, and also his co-op as you buy electricity from them. Can you tell us the process and how you're involved with the local co-ops and customers?
Sure. Well, Great River Energy, we're a G&T, so we generate and transmit power. And we have 28 member owners, and McLeod Cooperative is one of those. Steel Waseca, who John's farm is on, is also one of those. And so what we do as GRE is we operate the power plants and run the high voltage transmission lines and supply that to the co-ops. They have the customers, so they work directly with them. As far as the relationship and something like this, it's really nice. Great River Energy, we use our aggregated resources to run the conservation improvement programs. That's a series of rebates, grants, things like that, to kind of help out with the co-ops in supplying some of these efficiency programs that we were talking about today.
Well, Shannon, co-ops like yours are where John actually purchases the electricity from, correct?
That'd be correct.
And then the next level, you go to GRE and buy it from them.
Yes, there's a complete chain reaction of events that takes place to get it to the end user, like John. And we purchase our power from Great River Energy, which in turn owns generation facilities that makes the power and gets it here. So essentially, our bills are based upon how much energy we need at one given point in time and how much is being used for the duration of time.
If a consumer like John wants to do some energy efficiency programming and rebates, do they approach you or GRE or both?
Typically, they'd come to us. We, in turn, use the guidelines that Great River Energy have drawn out for us, Jake in particular, for energy conservation on lighting or motors, variable frequency drives, and kind of a combination of just a little bit of everything. We can look at what it is that you're looking at installing and how much energy is it really going to save us. And if we don't have a program for it, maybe we can do a custom program and get you some rebate or grant money to help assist with the program because of the fact that we're going to be saving energy in the end.
Well, Shannon talked a lot about how the efficiencies help the co-op or the local distributor of electricity, but why would a company that sells electricity want people to use less electricity?
I think that really starts to come into play at Great River Energy's level, at the power producer, the operator of the power plants. Certainly in a growing economy, the cheapest kilowatt hour is the one that you don't produce. So we have our existing power plants out there, but the next one we build will always be more expensive than the ones that we have already. So we're in the economy isn't growing very fast right now, so it's a little bit trickier at this moment, but it's still always better to not have to build that next power plant. So we fully support conservation because we know that in the long term, which we think literally out to 2040, 2050, in the long term, it's always cheaper to conserve than to have to build a new power plant.
Thank you both for allowing us to flip a switch and have good things happen. That really, really is an impressive thing, and that planning and the work you do behind the scenes makes it happen. John's team eventually gave a recommendation that he needed to look at products to bring energy efficiency up and costs down on his farm. That recommendation eventually led us to a manufacturer that had some innovative products, and we're going to ask them to tell us about the products. Well, you brought some things in front of us. Can you tell us about it?
Yes. Let's take this. This is a standard 100-watt incandescent bulb, which is pretty standard throughout the residential, industrial, and also in the agricultural market. They use quite a few of them. This bulb here consumes 100 watts of energy, where we can replace that bulb with one of our bulbs, which consumes 12 watts of energy. So we have about an 85% energy savings when we're using our bulb versus that bulb in the same time frame that they use it. And what we've done is we've gone one step further and we've developed our products for the agricultural market. Primarily, some of the older fixtures have that standard Edison type base where you just screw the fixture right into the socket. And this would be our Edison base type socket. We've gone one step further and developed our lights into a modular type system where we have our base unit right here, and we take this base unit and we can modify it to, we can put a hardwired fixture on it so we can hang it from the ceiling, or if you have a conduit box in the barn, what we can do is we have this adapter that would fit right to the conduit box, and then in turn we mount this light right to that conduit box in this fashion here. And this fixture, when it's completely assembled, it has an IP66 rating, so it's designed for a wet environment. Typically an agricultural environment is very harsh, very dusty, and in many cases they're power washing it in between flocks and so forth.
So it's a retro product.
Correct, yes.
Probably saving a lot of time, money, and use of expensive professionals perhaps?
Not only that, but also the lights are designed for the life expectancy of these LED bulbs. There's a life expectancy of about 50,000 hours versus an incandescent bulb which has a life expectancy of about 1,000 hours. So you don't need that ladder and replacing bulbs all the time, and obviously the energy savings is there, and the product overall designed for that harsh environment are all things that the growers and the farmers are looking for.
Can you tell us about any future products that are coming, or is that top secret?
Sure, no. We're a company, we're focused on agriculture. So for us, there's really three segments. So we have the poultry market, which includes layers and broilers, and then the turkey market, like what John does here. And then we have the swine market, which is actually rather large in this area and into Iowa and Pennsylvania with swine lights. And then a third market that we're doing R&D in now with some global universities is the aquaculture market, which is quite fascinating, where we're illuminating crustacean environments and fin fish like carp and tilapia and salmon.
Fascinating. Earlier you had mentioned, Brian, a number of birds and the potential for this market. Can you expand on that just a little bit?
Sure. So again, those three markets are pretty big. The poultry market in the United States is especially big, along with the swine. And really, that's kind of what our goal is. Of course, we save energy because it's LED, and LEDs run cooler and they're more energy efficient. They more easily get light on the ground. But part of the other technology that is important for the agriculture community, for guys like John, who really care about their own productivity, not just energy savings, is creating production enhancement. And that's really what our lights are tuned to with specific color and amount of light and the photo period, or how long it's on. And even a couple percent change in production can mean a big number. So, if you're talking about a 1 to 3% increase in weight for a chicken, you kind of go, well, does that really matter? But at any given time, a snapshot in North America, there's about 8.7 billion birds at any time in North America.
So we're saving feed, bringing costs down for the consumer, being friendly to the environment, and helping our farmer friend John, right?
Creating jobs as well.
As a farmer, you're looking at animal care, safety of the workers, and also efficiencies. So how does Shannon come into the part about efficiency and making your farm work better?
Well, obviously, anything we can do to save money while still producing a wholesome and nutritious product is something that interests me. And in the case we're talking about today, changing our lights to LED have resulted us from going from a 100-watt fixture down to a 15-watt fixture, and so you're getting a significant amount of energy savings there. In this barn alone, I save between $100 and $150 a month on my lighting bill. So anything we can do to do that to help my bottom line is very welcome.
Awesome. Shannon, what kinds of things can you point out in here that John can maybe make tweaks to make his bottom line better?
Well, anytime you're dealing with ventilation or heating and lighting, insulation is always key when it comes to heating, the actual heating product itself. I know that he was speaking earlier about the fact of going from fuel oil to propane. That's a big plus. Obviously, I can definitely imagine the bottom line is a big difference there. And when it comes to ventilation, the more efficient fan motors, you can definitely save some money there. However, sometimes to upgrade, the cost difference, you have to weigh out the price difference versus what you're saving to get a payback on it. See if it's worthy of actually taking a functioning type motor and upgrading it. And at the same time, is the existing fan motor doing what it needs to do, or do you need to increase size to gain some efficiencies that way also?
Is that part of your and the other team members' job to help pinpoint what the efficiencies would be received?
It is, for the most part. When you're dealing with some sort of an audit of any type, whether you're doing an audit online yourself or you're having somebody come in to do it, it's best to do a walkthrough, even if you own the facility, and start counting how many fixtures, how many fans, what size, what do they actually draw. How long of runtime is huge, obviously, with every one of these pieces of equipment. But in the end, take and section it out and draw a map out on paper and lay it out in front of you to actually get all the numbers up front, so that way you have a better platform to start on.
And as I breathe the air and I'm in here, I feel like it's a healthy place to work and also to raise turkeys. Would you say that's one of your goals?
You know, our goal is to raise a healthy product that the consumer wants, and keeping the birds healthy obviously makes them perform at the best, which in turn makes me the most money. So it's in my best interest to keep these birds as healthy and as comfortable as possible. And that does result in the proper lighting, the proper heating, the proper ventilation, all these things that Shannon can help me make more efficient. So as I said earlier, if we can do that for less money, everybody wins.
Well, earlier you two were talking about the bird itself, the biology of the bird, and what it wants for light source and type. Can either of you expand on that?
Well, turkeys are a little bit different than humans. They see light in a different way. They actually have other glands in their head which see that light. But light to a turkey, as you know, that's how they start their reproductive cycle, because that's why they lay their eggs in the spring when the day length gets longer. But it's very important to the turkey because that's how they regulate most of their bodily functions. Their circadian rhythms are all regulated based on their light intensity. So we can adjust the light intensity with these LED lights to make it darker or brighter and different wavelengths, and that does influence the attitude of the flock.
And Shannon, do you take what John just said as far as the biology and need of the animal in consideration when you're making recommendations?
John's going to know what's best for his barn by the homework that he's done. And what we're going to do is we're going to reward him as such with grants available for energy efficient programs. We're going to help fund some of the lighting upgrade because of the fact that he's going to help shave energy off of our peak electrical demand. In exchange, we're going to reward him for helping us do that, because we're going to save in the end, and essentially he's going to save in the end at the same time.
And if John and other farmers bring down that peak demand, does that also impact other consumers with less expensive electricity?
Absolutely. The thing about electricity that people don't understand is not only are you buying it by the kilowatt hour, and really that's what you're being billed for as a smaller consumer, but when you start dealing with large consumers, we start billing on demand also. So not only are you using, let's say, 10,000 kilowatts throughout the month, but at one given point in time, basically all the fans and all the lights and everything you can have on at one given time is pulling as much power as you're ever going to pull out here. Now there's a separate bill to have that capability of providing that power to you up to that maximum content at one given point in time. this type of installation typically would not have a demand type meter, but when we start getting into some three-phase grain setups and larger industrial plants, it definitely does. So by shaving down the demands, we can keep the price per kilowatt down because of the fact that we don't have to provide huge amounts of power at one given point in time, or available at one given point in time, when realistically we have to have it available 24/7, even though you're using it 30 seconds or a minute out of the day.
Paying for extra capacity.
Yes, capacity is big.
John, did you use the team and Shannon to set up priorities on what you did first as far as improvements?
Well, I think it was kind of a no-brainer in the part of the lighting was first, because you look at the consumption of electricity in this barn, and like Shannon said, some of it is intermittent. Our lighting is our most constant demand of electricity, and it's also the one where probably the most new technology was available. And when you look at a 100-watt incandescent light bulb now being able to be replaced with a 10 to 12-watt, LED light, and it can do the same thing you need it to do, there wasn't a lot of rocket science involved there. It was pretty much a no-brainer to do that first.
So priorities become important.
Yes.
Thank you, John. This has really been very interesting and very informative.
Thank you for coming.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Shannon.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for joining us on today's episode of Farm Connections. We hope you learned something about farming, food production, and energy conservation. Whether you live on a farm or do not live on a farm, energy conservation is important to all of us. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Farm Connections.